The couple has been invited to a variety show, simply because they are renowned as a model couple in their circle. Yet no one knows that the seemingly loving pair is actually hiding a host of painful secrets. When she got up this morning, Mylan's first move was to go live, introducing to her followers on social media the free try-on event at their bridal shop. Mylan runs this bridal shop together with her husband. In front of her fans, Mylan heaps praise on her husband for his good looks and tenderness. She also holds up the fruit juice beside her, saying her husband specially made it for her before heading out. But once the camera cuts off, Mylan looks disgusted and pours the juice into a bottle. She then casts a scornful glance at her husband, who has not even left home yet, especially eyeing the highly mismatched orange trousers he is wearing. In fact, the truth is the exact opposite of what was said during the live stream. Mylan and her husband have an extremely toxic relationship. They have slept in separate rooms for 3 years. Even when staying under the same roof, neither of them is willing to utter a single word to the other. Mylan would never put on an act of deep marital affection if the company's revenue had not plummeted sharply lately. To rescue sales figures, Mylan has placed high hopes on this event. Unexpectedly, her husband stirs up fresh trouble again. The wedding gowns arranged in the showroom have been taken away by her husband for outside clients. Mylan can only swallow her anger. Her husband is a well-known bridal designer with a better eye for wedding dresses than she has. The event has kicked off, yet not a single customer has shown up for ages. As for her husband, instead of comforting or encouraging his wife, he makes sarcastic remarks on the sidelines. Mylan clenches her fists in fury. Just then, a screenwriter from a variety show pays a visit. The screenwriter wants to invite Mylan and her husband onto the program. The show's project theme centers on wedding dresses, where they will create wedding gowns for ordinary people who cannot hold their own wedding ceremonies. Since the program requires them to share their marital stories, the screenwriter stresses that both husband and wife must appear on the show together. Completely unaware of the real situation, the screenwriter believes Mylan and her husband are the model couple portrayed on social media, and speaks highly of their reputed affection for one another. After the screenwriter leaves, the couple gets into another quarrel. Mylan thinks appearing on the show can promote their company and reverse its sliding business performance. Yuanhao, her husband, flat out refuses to take part. He argues variety shows are nothing but staged performances, and he refuses to put on a hypocritical act in front of cameras. With their opinions sharply divided, conflict between the couple is ready to erupt. They have a fierce shouting match in front of their staff. Mylan berates her husband for constantly opposing her, and even shouts insults pointing at his hole-ridden orange trousers. Had subordinates not dragged her away, the quarrel would surely have escalated into a disastrous fight. The firm's director gives Mylan some advice. If she wants to change Yuanhao's mind, she should cater to him to some extent. Mylan refuses outright. She has catered to him and endured far too much over the years. As they talk, a former client who tried on wedding gowns at the shop, a woman newly divorced from her marriage, comes over to speak with Mylan. The woman states plainly that even though she wore her wedding gown, she still ended up getting divorced. She seems unfazed by her divorce, and even hands Mylan her business card as a lawyer. She is a divorce attorney specializing in investigating infidelity and extramarital affairs. Life is full of unexpected twists. The woman tells Mylan she can reach out anytime should she need her services. Meanwhile, the company's deputy representative tries to persuade Yuanhao, telling him he should not be so stubborn. Yuanhao pours out his grievances instead. In his wife's eyes, he feels he might be worth less than a stray dog on the street. Learning the two have slept apart for 3 years, the deputy representative advises Yuanhao to get a divorce and cut ties cleanly. Life is short, so why drag each other down? Elsewhere, Mylan opens up to the director. She longs to launch her very own wedding dress brand. She wants to forge full steam ahead to build her ideal career in life. Yet in reality, she feels held back by something, stuck going nowhere. That night, Mylan receives a message from the screenwriter. She is urged to convince her husband as soon as possible. Otherwise, the production team will have to consider inviting other couples. Shortly after arriving home, Mylan overheard her husband answering a phone call. She suddenly remembered that her mother-in-law's birthday was just a few days away, and that her mother-in-law had said she wanted a birthday meal prepared by her daughter-in-law. Recalling the director's advice to win her husband over, Mylan made a proactive gesture, determined to change his mind about appearing on the variety show. She promised to personally cook a lavish birthday feast for her mother-in-law. On the day of the birthday, Mylan arrived at her mother-in-law's house carrying fresh ingredients. Yet her mother-in-law seemed set on making things difficult. She deliberately pulled her son into the room, leaving Mylan alone to handle all the work in the kitchen. Fortunately, Mylan had long grown resilient and skilled from years of such treatment. After bustling about for a long while, she successfully prepared a full table of dishes. However, she accidentally cut her finger while chopping vegetables. Staring at the kitchen knife beside her, painful memories involuntarily flooded her mind. At that moment, her mother-in-law walked over with her usual harsh, unforgiving attitude and pressed Mylan on when she planned to have children. The relentless pressure left Mylan feeling utterly breathless. Her young nephew, unaware of the tension, thought his aunt was struggling to breathe because her clothes did not fit properly. Faced with the child's innocent remark, Myling could only hide her sorrow and force a gentle smile. Meanwhile, in the room, the mother-in-law was bad-mouthing Myling to her son. Yuanhao could no longer bear her complaints, confused about what Myling had ever done to earn his mother's constant dislike. His mother blindly blamed Myling for the couple's failure to have a child, insisting that it was Myling who refused to get pregnant. Fed up with his mother's nagging, Yuanhao retorted that her constant nitpicking had worn them out, leaving them no mood to start a family. Yet his mother refused to listen and blamed Myling again, claiming that Myling had put those words in her son's mouth. Enraged, Yuanhao shouted at his mother, demanding to know why she always picked on his wife. As their argument escalated sharply, Yuanhao stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Obsessed with having a grandson, his mother remained completely oblivious to the cracks in her son's marriage. On the drive back to the city, Yuanhao told Myling she no longer needed to endure his mother's unfair treatment or keep up the pretense of being a perfect daughter-in-law. Though his words came from a place of concern for her, Myling was filled with frustration. She had gone to great lengths to cook the birthday meal, and what could have been a minor issue had been blown out of proportion by her husband. After getting out of the car, Myling kept pounding her chest, overwhelmed by a suffocating sense of oppression and distress. With the birthday feast ruined, Myling tried once more to persuade her husband to join the variety show. The next day, she prepared another elaborate dinner for him. Just then, she received a phone call informing her that her husband had been rushed to the hospital. Myling initially thought it was a scam call, but she grew anxious after hanging up. Her husband's phone was unreachable, and none of the company staff had seen Yuanhao. Overwhelmed with anxiety, she hurried to the hospital by car. Seeing a figure resembling her husband in the emergency room, Myling struggled to breathe and fainted on the spot from shock. As she lay unconscious, past memories resurfaced. 3 years prior, Myling and Yuanhao had been a deeply loving couple. Back then, Myling was pregnant, and the two had eagerly anticipated the arrival of their child. One morning, Myling had a terrifying nightmare and felt extremely uneasy afterward, wanting her husband to stay by her side. However, Yuanhao abandoned her at the office to tend to his work. It was on that very day that Myling suffered signs of a miscarriage. Despite being rushed to the hospital, she lost her baby. From that day on, their loving marriage fell apart completely. Myling resented her husband for not being there when she needed him most, while Yuanhao also felt wronged, arguing that he could not possibly read his wife's mind. After Myling's collapse at the hospital, Yuanhao finally agreed to appear on the variety show. But right before filming began, he discovered that Myling had secretly confirmed their participation without consulting him first. Flying into a rage, Yuanhao walked off the set despite the ongoing filming. Myling chased after him to explain, but he remained stubborn and insisted on dropping out of the show. Frustrated by his childish tantrum, Myling took off her wedding ring in a fit of anger and shouted that she wanted a divorce. After learning that his wife had agreed to appear on the show without consulting him, Yuanhao stormed off in a fit of willfulness. Unable to persuade him no matter what she tried, Myling was overcome with utter disappointment. In a burst of rage, she threw away her wedding ring. She no longer wanted to spend the rest of her life with this man. Yuanhao got drunk at a bar. Up to this point, he still could not figure out what he had done wrong. When he got home, he tried to have a sincere talk with his wife, yet Myling pretended to be asleep inside her room. Early the next morning, Myling put on her usual act of marital affection once again, showcasing non-existent happiness during her live stream. Once she finished the stream, Yuanhao brought up the idea of a serious conversation a second time. Myling gave him no consideration at all, simply saying she had no time and walking away. With the variety show opportunity fallen through, their plan to boost sales was also put on hold. The couple's bridal shop fell back into dire straits. Fortunately, unexpected good news arrived. The company received a phone call from Wanju, one of the biggest A-list celebrities at the moment, who wanted to place an order for a wedding dress at their shop. The deputy representative, who was also Yuanhao's close friend, reminded him that this was a golden chance to repair his marriage. Yuanhao took his friend's advice and relayed the idea to his wife when he got home. He stated that Wanju's wedding dress was their top priority right now and that divorce would have to be put on hold. If Wanju found out they were getting divorced, she would undoubtedly turn to other bridal studios. Myling had nothing to argue back. She had no choice but to bear with the situation for the sake of paying their employees. Soon afterwards, Wanju arrived at the bridal shop, accompanied by her personal photographer. While Wanju tried on wedding gowns, Yuanhao spoke with the photographer Mizan. He could not shake the feeling that she looked familiar. When Mizan smiled and mentioned cocktails, Yuanhao finally realized she was the woman who had bought him a drink at the bar the previous night. Yuanhao felt confused. They were strangers, so why had she bought him a drink? Mizan kept her mysterious smile and told him to think harder. Wanju stepped out in her trial gown and confided to Myling that she was 5 months pregnant. Concerned about Wanju's physical condition, Myling suggested she try a ball gown silhouette instead of a form-fitting dress that would squeeze her belly. Still, Wanju insisted on the fitted style and demanded an even tighter waistline. She wanted to look absolutely flawless on her wedding day. Miling ended up quarreling with her husband over this matter. Even though Wanju had given clear specifications, Miling told Yuanhao to make a loose ball gown, raise the waistline, and replace the back zipper with laces. Yuanhao could not understand his wife. In his view, they should simply follow the client's requests instead of picking unnecessary trouble. Haunted by her own painful past, Miling did not outright mention Wanju's pregnancy. She only hinted that Wanju's body would keep changing and gaining weight. The more vaguely she spoke, the more baffled Yuanhao became, convinced his wife was being unreasonable. Apart from the gown fitting, Wanju handed Miling an invitation to her pre-wedding party. Upon seeing the hotel venue printed on the card, Miling sank into sorrow. The hotel was represented by her ex-boyfriend. Back when they dated, he had cheated on her and gotten another woman pregnant, then broken up with Miling over it. On the night of their breakup, Miling had gone to see him in heavy rain, only to receive his cold, heartless rejection. Yuanhao also spotted the invitation and memories came flooding back. After Miling's breakup with her ex, she and Yuanhao got together. One drunken night, her ex had shouted at Yuanhao, begging him to take good care of Miling and make her happy. It was clear the ex had never truly gotten over her. Back then, Yuanhao had solemnly sworn to him that he would never hurt Miling the way he had, and would give her enough happiness for her to leave all her painful memories behind. Those old promises still echoed in his mind, yet their real-life marriage was already full of cracks. An employee told Miling that her ex-boyfriend was rumored to be divorced. For a moment, Miling was lost in thought. She had already guessed Wanju's real reason for sending her the invitation. Yuanhao was also deeply troubled. The thought of his wife meeting her ex weighed heavily on him. Learning that her ex was now single made him even more anxious. Several months passed, and the party was drawing near. During a live stream, Miling mentioned Wanju's party and told her fans she would definitely attend. Suddenly Yuanhao burst onto the scene, flying into a rage. He shouted, demanding whether his wife had lost her mind. How could a married woman dare go to that hotel? Miling hastily ended the live broadcast. Yuanhao kept raising his voice, reminding her that her ex was a scumbag who had betrayed her. Now that he was single, did she intend to rekindle their old romance? Miling told her husband to keep his pointless concern to himself. Even if her ex hurt her again, it would never compare to the harm he had inflicted on her over these past 3 years. When the party came up, the firm's director helped Miling pick out a dress for the occasion. The deputy representative promptly relayed the conversation to Yuanhao. The more Yuanhao thought about it, the angrier he grew. Could she not just throw on any ordinary outfit? Was she trying to dress more beautifully than the bride? To sabotage his wife's party plans, Yuanhao hauled in piles of fabric and ordered her to sort all of it before closing time. Refusing to back down, Miling got into another fierce shouting match with him. What occupies one's thoughts by day appears in dreams by night. That night, Yuanhao dreamed that her ex was seducing his wife at the party, and the two were about to share a passionate kiss. In reality, Miling ignored everything and showed up at the party. Not far away, her ex stared at her intently and then walked toward her. Miling forced a smile as she faced the man who had once betrayed her. As they gazed at each other, something seemed about to unfold between them. At that moment, Yuanhao suddenly burst into the venue. Earlier, Wanju had contacted Yuanhao, saying she wanted to put on her wedding gown right away and urging him to bring it over quickly. Using the gown delivery as an excuse, Yuanhao stepped naturally between his wife and her ex. Undeterred, the ex took advantage of Yuanhao's distraction to speak privately with Miling. He admitted he had actually sent the invitation because he missed her. Miling refused to give him a second chance. She stated plainly that she wanted no further entanglement with him. To her, he was nothing more than a stranger. Still unwilling to give up, he pressed her whether she was happy. On impulse, Miling lied and said her husband treated her well and that she was perfectly content. Meanwhile, Mizan the photographer asked Yuanhao if he still could not remember her. Yuanhao misread her intentions, thinking she was hitting on him. He warned her not to pursue a married man. It was only when Mizan mentioned Milan that Yuanhao's memories came flooding back. Years ago on the streets of Milan, Yuanhao had nearly had his wallet stolen, and Mizan had helped him subdue the thief. Recalling this incident, Yuanhao marveled at this strange twist of fate. Mizan then confessed bluntly that he had not misread her feelings for him. Elsewhere, after receiving the wedding gown, Wanju could not wait to try it on. To achieve the fitted silhouette Wanju desired, Yuanhao had specially crafted an elegant sash for her. Unexpectedly, Wanju suddenly collapsed at the party. Miling immediately called an ambulance. From conversations among the party guests, Yuanhao finally learned Wanju was pregnant and about to go into labor. He realized that months earlier, when his wife had hinted he should alter the fitted cut, she had been thinking of the health of Wanju and her unborn baby. Thankfully, they got her to the hospital in time. Wanju gave birth safely to a baby girl, and both mother and child were out of danger. Having gone through this life-threatening ordeal, Wanju felt guilty toward her newborn. She thought she did not deserve to be a mother for forcing herself into a tight gown just for the sake of appearance. Wanju's guilt stirred up painful memories within Miling. Just then, Yuanhao received a phone call from his mother. He found out his wife had mailed divorce papers to her. Yuan Hao confronted Miling. Miling held him responsible for Wanju's near-death experience. Her husband was far too stubborn. No matter what she said, no matter how many times she said it, he would always turn a deaf ear. In the heat of their argument, Miling accused her husband of being a hateful murderer.